Jenny Badeau, VP of HR Technology here at Shortlister. Thank you for joining us today. I'd like to go over a few things before I turn it over to our presenters. Our Meet a Vendor webinars take place on Wednesdays at 1 o'clock Central Time. We use a condensed format of 30 minutes, which includes a 25-minute presentation, followed by 5 minutes for questions. And to submit a question, you can use the GoToWebinar widget on the right-hand side of your screen, and we'll get to as many of those as we can after the presentation. And finally, for Shortlister subscribers, our Meet a Vendor webinars are recorded and uploaded into the Shortlister platform. So when you're logged in, you can click the Meet a Vendor tab on the top right of your page, or you can visit Benefitexpress's profile page to access that recording. We will also send the recording in a follow-up email to all of you attending today. Now I'd like to turn things over to Allison Lohman, Director of Demand Generation with Benefitexpress. Allison?
Thank you, Jenny, and hello, everyone. It's great to be back with Shortlister. If you joined us last time, welcome back. But if you missed our first Meet a Vendor webinar, a link to the recording is in our profile, so feel free to check that out after our presentation if you'd like to learn more. Today, we'll be sharing insights around employee communication in the age of COVID-19, both what we've done internally for our Benefitexpress employees, as well as externally to help our client and broker partners. And now it is my pleasure to introduce our distinguished speakers. Melanie Hollenbeck is Chief Growth Officer and has more than 20 years of relationship and partnership development experience. She leads our sales and marketing teams. Jocelyn Pertel is Chief Operating Officer and is responsible for all aspects of the delivery of services, including implementation, ongoing services, and client relationship management. Alan Naminsky is our Broker and Advisor Relations Executive and is responsible for all aspects of new business development and partnership with consulting advisors and brokers. For today's presentation, Melanie will start by sharing an overview of Benefitexpress and how we built a successful remote team in response to COVID-19 challenges. She'll also share creative ideas that we've launched internally to help stay connected during this new normal. Jocelyn will then dive into best practices for utilizing your benefits administration partner to enhance employee communication during times of crisis. And lastly, Alan will wrap up by discussing how brokers are working with their clients to find alternative solutions during this time. So with that, Melanie, let's get started.
Thank you, Allison. For those of you that may not know who Benefitexpress is, we are a benefit technology and service company. We pride ourselves on the strength of our resources and the services we provide to our clients. Many of our competitors focus first on technology. We focus first on service and use technology as a way to deliver our offerings to our clients and their employees. Communication is at the forefront of benefit administration, not only in the terms of what we can do for our clients and our broker partners, but also how we demonstrate that with our own workforce. We closed the office officially on March 17th and have been remote for 3 months now. All of our employees have the equipment to be able to work from home with no issue. We are very proud of our staff and how they've adjusted to working from home and how they continue to service our clients. Our IT team has been wonderfully supportive for any equipment needs or any questions. For disaster recovery purposes, our call center has always had the ability to allow our employees to work from home. So the transition to remote was seamless, and we had the same great service metrics, including, I might mention, average speed to answer, the day we moved remote as the day we did before when everyone was in the office. Because the move to work from home has gone so well, we are taking a very cautious approach to reopening our office in Schaumburg. During this time of uncertainty and change, we've been in close contact with our staff since successfully transitioning to a fully remote workforce. Some of the things we're particularly proud of include our recent work from home social media campaign. You see some pictures here. We gave our audience an inside look into our remote team and their surroundings, showing our commitment to our clients to support them no matter where we are. Next, we host bi-weekly virtual happy hours, karaoke events, trivia contests to give employees something to look forward to during this new normal. We also gifted all Benefitexpress employees company swag to keep us connected while we can't be together in a physical location. Finally, we're committed to our virtual town halls and understand how important it is for employees to hear from our senior executives on the overall state of the business, the status of the office reopening, and overall transparency with the decisions we're making with regard to COVID. Through these efforts, employee engagement remains consistent, and thus we're able to continue to provide the same level of service that our clients have come to know and expect with Benefitexpress. Allison?
Hey, this is Jocelyn. So for the record, Melanie participates in the karaoke, me and Alan and Allison not so much. So it's fair to say that for the last 3 months, it has really been a whirlwind for our clients. And while some industries are definitely hit harder than others, things like hospitality and retail and restaurant, there really isn't a client out there that hasn't had special needs or requests during this time based on their business. And our job at Benefitexpress was to be there for them with whatever they needed and very quickly. And it's really been wonderful to see how much employers are doing their very best for their employees during this time. And we, of course, want to support them in that. So examples of activities, as I'm sure many of you are experiencing, reduced hours, reduced pay, furloughs, and layoffs. So this has led to lots of requests. Some examples are changing ACI eligibility to exclude weeks where folks might have reduced hours and not including them in eligibility calculations, or changing employee contributions on a payroll file to zero them out or add them to the employer contribution if the employer is picking up the cost for furloughed workers for a period of time. Maybe moving furloughed employees to direct bill or ultimately to COBRA, extending grace periods for direct bill, reducing salaries but preserving life insurance and STD coverages, allowing employees to reduce their dependent care savings account amounts. And then, of course, we had the National Emergency Declaration due to COVID-19 and the DOL and other agencies, which extended timelines for things like COBRA and life events, and the IRS guidelines on cafeteria plans that provided increased flexibility at the employer's discretion. And all of these things just have led to so many more conversations and changes and need for communication. And our job is to be right there with our clients every step of the way through these times and provide them with whatever data they need, changes they need to make, helping them think through options and costs, and again, very quickly. So we had clients that would tell us on a Wednesday they needed something done and on the next day's payroll file. Or we had clients who would decide on a Tuesday they wanted to put their benefits in arrears, on Wednesday decide instead they want to send them to direct bill, and on Thursday decide that they're going to terminate and move to COBRA. And we were there with them every day just to get them whatever they needed, because we understand how hard this is for everyone. And you as benefit leaders, you're taking your lead from the overall business, and companies are making decisions on the fly every single day. So on the next page is a quote from one of our clients on really their appreciation on a particular Friday afternoon where they called and they needed data to help their business with their decision making, and our team rallied to get them what they needed within just a few hours. And we're just really proud of our team for being there for our clients, especially as a business when, as Melanie said, we were also in a world that was new to us of moving to work from home. So in all of this, all of these changes that I talked about, communication has just been so important because things are changing so fast for your employees. So for communication to be effective, and especially during this time where I think there's just so much coming at us from so many different places, it's important that the communication be, first of all, customized. So where it makes sense, so it doesn't feel like just a generic, uncaring message. Targeted, so only relevant communication is sent to an employee that's very specific to their situation. Timely, getting the information to the employee at the time they need it. And then by employee preference, which means where possible, sending it to them in the way they want to be communicated to, whether that's email, text, paper, or maybe some combination. So we want to share with you on the next few pages some examples of some communication that we've done. I'll start with targeted emails, and we've done targeted emails for our clients from everything from giving them information about co-pays that are being waived in particular plans, 401k changes, reduced matches or changes there, personal and business travel policies. We had one client ask us to send something out to remind people what the policy was for social media, because of course people are on social media more right now. And then also things like reminders about direct bill owed. So somebody who's being direct billed for the first time and they haven't paid their bill, and clients want to remind them before their coverage could be terminated. Postcards. So Melanie and I were laughing about this the other day, that paper has sort of come back in vogue because as employees are being furloughed, they may not be checking their work email. So for instance, we had a client who asked us to send out postcards with open enrollment coming up because they weren't sure that people would be looking at their emails where they would normally get that kind of information. Inserts have been great to put, and this gets at really the timely part. So if you put an insert in a direct bill notice, letting them know maybe of an extension in a grace period, or if you put an insert in a COBRA notice saying, hey, there's these rules now that you can extend when you have to elect or when you have to pay. So that's really a point in time that can go along with some other kind of communication. Other things that we've done is microsites. A microsite is really a great way to get a lot of information online about benefit changes, or it could be about returning to the office, or even just general COVID information. And it's available not only to employees, but also to spouses and families. So it's kind of a standalone site. And from there, maybe they can get into their benefit site, but it gives a bunch of information and it's accessible to more than just the employee. We have also developed a lot of compliance communication around some of these new regulations I mentioned earlier. So any changes that employers might be allowing to their plans as a result. So maybe the ability to reduce your FSA contribution if that's something the employer decides they want to do. And then COBRA alternatives. We have a partnership with a company called GoHealth, and GoHealth provides technology, agents, and expertise to navigate the healthcare marketplace, and including eligibility for subsidies where that's appropriate. And so we simply just provide that information about GoHealth with our COBRA notices. Again, that gets to being timely and relevant so that former employees know that they have options. And it's a win for the employee, because if they can find a healthcare option at a lower cost than the 102% they would pay through COBRA, that's a win for them. Maybe they find out that they're eligible for subsidies they didn't know about. And it's a win for the employer, particularly if they're self-insured, because the employee then is not staying on COBRA and the employer is not incurring those claims. So we rolled this out, and many of our COBRA clients are taking advantage of this particular communication channel. Again, I think our clients say it best, and this is a quote from one of our retail clients going through a lot right now, and they've really appreciated the partnership and solutioning that we brought to them. And, of course, we appreciate so much our clients and how much they have worked with us through all of this, and also have been so focused on their employees. So we've talked so far about communications having mostly to do with enrollments and changes in benefits. But there's some other areas where employers should think about communications and should be able to leverage their benefit administration partners. And areas like the benefits of telemedicine. So especially right now, when it might be hard to get to a doctor, or people may not feel ready to be in a doctor's office, helping them understand that they can use a telemedicine option. For some of our clients, we've actually put what we call a widget on their welcome page on the site, so that it's one of the first things they see when they get on the site. They can see how to utilize their telemedicine partner, because the client really wanted to have that be prominent. Also things like, when to use urgent care versus going to the emergency room. And again, that seems to be very timely right now because people are nervous about going into hospitals, don't want to overload the emergency room if they don't have to, and things like that. Certainly reminders about EAP programs. I know we've done this for our own employees, and we can help our employers do the same for their employees. And then lastly, I wanted to talk a little bit about lifestyle marketplaces. So this is really reminding employees of perks or other benefits that they may have available to them. So here at Benefitexpress, we created a lifestyle marketplace for those employers who either don't already have something similar themselves, or don't already have something through their brokers or other partners. And so we aren't looking to displace something that is already working well today, but if an employer has a need to provide a place for employees to go for things like discount on cars or appliances, maybe access to loan programs. So for example, your car breaks down and you need a short-term loan to help you with the repair, or maybe student loan support, or additional insurance options, so home and auto or pet care. This is just a really nice way for employers to help out their employees with no cost or administrative burden put on the employer's part. And I think right now, especially for employees, some of these things can be very helpful, especially if they are on furlough or if they've been having reduced hours and they have something, they have a financial need. It's just some nice perks to be able to, as an employer, to be able to provide them outside of their normal benefits. So with that, I think I'm going to turn it over to Alan to talk about how we can support brokers during this time.
Thank you, Jocelyn. Yeah, we've been working with our broker partners and our advisor partners to help them in several ways. Let's dive a little deeper. So we've all been saying we're in this together, and it's true. Nobody's an expert on COVID, and we're all learning as we go. And our broker partners are very interested in how we're helping our clients with the challenges that this pandemic has presented. We all need to share our experiences, both our successes and our failures, so that we can all help each other do better as we continue to navigate the crisis. And Jocelyn shared a number of these things that we've been sharing all along with our partners. Hopefully some of these items have been helpful for you today. Many of our broker partners were in an active evaluation process with their clients or planning an evaluation as the pandemic hit. This understandably has impacts on these processes. Some of their clients were better equipped to work from home and maintain business operations, but many were not and therefore needed to pause or delay an evaluation. So timelines need to be reevaluated both on the client side as well as the vendor partner. You may need to think about contracts. If somebody has an existing contract with a prior vendor that they were trying to time this out, is that still going to align? Something to think about. It's important to understand if service volumes have changed or if other assumptions that were made could impact pricing. Maybe the client would like to consider additional services such as COBRA, call center, or communications that may not have been in scope prior to the crisis. As Jocelyn stated, these things are more important to our clients every day. It's also been interesting to host finalist meetings virtually. Some technologies are proving to be better for these than others, and we're all learning some best practices that we'll continue to leverage in the future. Lastly, we're getting consistent feedback from our broker partners and prospective clients that budgets have been cut and everyone must do more with less. Now is the time to understand if you have a vendor or a partner that is willing to work with you. Are you receiving high value, high quality service? Are you paying for a premium service but not receiving the value for your money? Or maybe your client is using an ERP type solution where fees are collected upfront for a multi-year agreement, and the client would benefit from a point solution that offers more services at a monthly fee structure instead of a capital expense. We do expect 2021 to be a busy evaluation year, so start having these conversations with your clients now. With that, I'll turn it back over to Jenny.
Thank you, Alan, Jocelyn, Melanie, and Allison. You guys covered a ton of great content today and certainly very, very timely with everything that's going on in the world. For our attendees, you will see that Alan's contact info is up on your screen. Please do reach out to him directly if you've got follow-up questions or you want to schedule a time to connect with your team. We did receive several questions from the audience today, and we'll get to those in just a second. But before we do so, I wanted to share why we were so excited to have Benefitexpress join us today. Some of you have probably joined us for past Benefitexpress webinars where we learned about their industry-leading benefits administration technology solutions coupled with their passion for service, which is proven by a very high 93% customer referenceability rate. Welcoming them back today, we learned a lot about how they're supporting their clients and broker partners with the countless challenges that have arisen during the COVID-19 crisis. And it was really fun and exciting to hear about how Benefitexpress is supporting their own workforce with these challenges as well. And as Alan said, none of us are experts on how to navigate a pandemic, right? So we can all learn from each other. And I learned a lot today. I hope all of you in our audience did as well. So let's keep on learning in our last 10 minutes or so here as we get to the questions from the audience. It looks like all of them really are kind of around the same theme and this new way of work that we're all navigating. So Benefitexpress team, we got a couple questions that came in that are pretty similar, so I'm going to kind of combine these into one. So what do you anticipate being different during this fall's open enrollment in terms of communications? And then similarly, have you seen any specific communication methods rising in popularity?
This is Jocelyn, and I can take that. Thank you, Jenny. So a couple things. I think as it relates to the fall open enrollment, most employers are still working through what those anticipated changes might be. I think where we'll definitely see a difference is in communication. I mentioned earlier kind of the use of postcards. We expect a lot more, we expect clients to be thinking about different ways where maybe they always used email before. If they've got people who aren't in the office or aren't regularly on their email anymore, something like a postcard could make sense. We expect a lot more targeted communications, especially in areas like FSA, since maybe they will be providing different rules than what employees are used to before. They'll have longer to submit their claims, for instance, for 2019 and for 2020, and deadlines might be different. I really think in terms of the specific communication channels, it kind of depends on the population and kind of where clients are in terms of bringing folks back from furlough or rehiring as things open up. Everyone has a cell phone, so I think text messages or push notifications through mobile app are always great ways to communicate. And I think it's really just about trying to hit people in multiple venues who are no longer in the office, and thinking through those with our clients is what's going to be most important.
Perfect. That makes sense. And I liked your earlier comment about how paper is in vogue again. So it's finding that balance of old school and new school, and having that variety of communication to connect with everyone. So next question is around your service center. So have you guys seen an uptick in calls to your service center? And if you have, are there specific topics that you're seeing a trend around?
Yeah, we definitely have. In fact, this is usually what we like to say is the quiet time in the call center of the year, because, obviously open enrollment in October and November is busy, January's busy. And usually, as you get into the summer, it's a little quieter, except for those clients who have mid-year enrollments. And we haven't seen it be quieter. And that is, I think, has everything to do with some of these changes that we talked about earlier. So where we're seeing a lot of the calls is direct bills. We've got a lot of clients who are, if they have their employees on furlough and they're moving them to a direct bill situation, so obviously their deductions aren't coming out of payroll anymore. Direct bill is new for a lot of these employees. And, as I said earlier, that's where we've been trying to do extra communication, like even, hey, this is what direct bill is all about. For those of you who have never been direct billed, here's how it works, sending out reminders. And all of those, of course, can lead to questions that come to the call center. And then, certainly as people get closer to what the direct bill is due, you get a lot of questions into the call center about methods of payment and things like that. Same thing with COBRA. So as we've seen an uptick in people that have been unfortunately laid off, and are offered COBRA, then we're seeing questions around that, plus with the new rules that extend the election period and the payment periods. As clients, if we've helped clients communicate around that, that's led to, an increase in questions. What does that really mean? When do I really have to say that I'm enrolled? What does it mean about retroactive claims and things like that? And then I'd say the other area where we see a lot is the FSA changes. So, as employers are allowing employees to change their FSA election during the year, which normally they can't do, or even some of the new rules about when they can make, still being able to make 2019 claims or extension of 2020 claims. They're confusing, especially because employees are used to rules around one way, and now the rules are different. And while the rules are better for them, it gives them more flexibility, it's different. So that clearly leads to some questions.
That's really fascinating. I love your perspective on that, and just interesting to hear those topics that are bubbling up that probably aren't the most popular topics during normal times. So thank you for those insights. I love this question. This is actually a question in my mind too, and something I kind of kick around and think about a lot. So what do you guys anticipate as long-term changes and impacts to both benefits and also benefits administration due to COVID-19?
Yeah, I think it's a little too soon to say definitely, right? Because, in my view, the pendulum has swung so far to one side, right? And it's going to take time before it settles to kind of what is our new normal around, work from home, and, what does that employee workforce look like? But there is no question that work from home is going to be greater than before. We've seen all sorts in the news, employers who've decided, hey, we can just stay work from home. And so because of that, I think communications methods, as we've been talking about all during this time, really have to change to reflect that. So some of the things that we had talked about are the way you might communicate differently when people are at home versus when they're in the office, and it's easier to connect in person with them. From an overall benefits perspective, actually, I would think that our broker friends on this call could probably do a better job of answering that question. And actually, Jenny, I would suggest that might be a good future shortlister conversation to have, because I do think that people will use their benefits differently. For example, maybe more telemedicine, as people are reluctant to go into the doctor's office, or maybe they just got more comfortable using it during this time and they're like, hey, this is great. I don't need to go to my doctor as much. Definitely EAPs, I think, are going to be more important than ever. With everything that's going on today, COVID just being one part of the challenges that we're having. And then I think like even wellness initiatives will need to be addressed. Some of the a good example is our own company. We used a provider who does, who takes, each of our employees can go and have a full, blood workup done and things like that. People may not be as willing to do those sorts of things. And so we may have to think about different ways to get at that, to help our employees with some of their wellness initiatives. Maybe I'll stop there and see if, I don't know if Melanie or Ellen, if you have anything to add to that. And like I said, I'm sure there's folks on the phones who would have all sorts of great things to add to that question too.
Yeah, I think you touched on a lot of timely things. I think the EAPs, the wellness stuff, in addition to communication and all of that. And to your first comment to the question is, we don't really know. Nobody has a crystal ball, right? So
right.
All of us can continue to share information and share our knowledge and move forward together. So thank you for those perspectives. I think we've got time for just a couple more questions. This one is interesting to me. So what is the most unique challenge that you have faced when you're helping your clients navigate the COVID-19 crisis?
For me, I think the biggest challenge, and I kept using the word quickly when I was talking very quickly before, by the way, trying to get a lot in a short period of time. But the biggest challenge for me is how quickly we have had to do things. And we have, one of our advantages is we have a very configurable system. We can make changes to our system very quickly. But even then, I gave an example earlier about a client who, on a Tuesday said, hey, we're going to just put benefits in arrears. So change the payroll file so that no employee contributions come out. We'll just put it in arrears, to the next day saying, you know what, I think let's direct bill them, to the next day saying, I think we're going to lay them off and put them through COBRA. And, as a team, we don't get to say, no, we need more time to do that. And we don't really need to, because, we're very good at making those changes in a timely fashion. But it's a challenge, right? And we get it. We know why our clients are changing their mind every day, because, this is all uncharted territory for all of us. And, there's so many business benefits is one part of what we know these businesses are trying to figure out. And so I'm sure they're reaching out to their benefits partners within the company saying, hey, well, if we did this, what would that mean? How might that look? And then maybe, well, what if we did this? So lots of modeling, lots of reporting, lots of data needed, and lots of decisions being made hour by hour. And so for me, the challenge was just making sure that we stayed on top of that and that we could move as quickly as our clients needed us to. In terms of the things they were asking us to do, again, because our system is pretty easy to configure, none of it was not doable. In fact, I think I can say with confidence there isn't anything our clients asked us to do that we said, no, we can't do that. It was just really about how fast we needed to do it, and make sure that we still did it well. And then getting back to the communication theme, being able that you could then very quickly get out that communication. So if you're going to send direct bills, we needed to immediately get emails to people saying, hey, you're being direct billed for the first time. This is what it means. This is what you need to do. Here's where you call. And so, sometimes you had a day to do that.
Very interesting. Thank you so much. And I'm going to sneak in one last question because it's an important one. Are you guys taking on new business for this year's annual enrollment?
Melanie, you're the Chief Growth Officer. You want to answer that?
We absolutely are.
Awesome. Thank you for confirming. So everyone, Alan's information is still up on your screen. So if you want to talk to him about this year's annual enrollment or anything else you heard today, please do reach out to him directly. And with that, we're at our time. So thank you again to the Benefitexpress team for such a thoughtful and interesting presentation. And thanks to all of you in the audience for joining us. We look forward to you joining us on our next Meet a Vendor webinar. Have a great day.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.